Hello and welcome back to this little series on a refurbishment project on this Nieuport 24 designed by David Boddington. I've since had another look at the plans and it appears that this model was actually designed from an older free flight model and was rethought through by David Boddington in 1976, so it's 48 years old, and I suspect that this model was made at round about this time, just because of the state of the airframe. As I hope you can hear, I've covered the bottom in Doculam. It was badly damaged and I had to remove the covering, and I also wanted to inspect the inside to see the state of the joints and the balsa, which is fine. This has been patched up now. I had toyed with the idea of covering the outer skin in Doculam, but that'll produce a very shiny finish, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to cover that in tissue, this in tissue, and I'm going to spray it the brushed aluminium colour. I've taken the cowl off because I would like to install the engine and try this tank out, which has been made from a mustard tin, and see how the engine works and see how it performs. The undercarriage has been removed and painted up because apparently it should have been the same brushed aluminium colour. And it's now time to turn my attention to the tail feathers. I've already covered the rudder in the Doculam. Needs to be covered in the tissue and then doped and painted, and I'll take you through and we'll see that process. I thought I'd start covering this now. Obviously, I don't think you'll want to watch me covering another airframe. If you want to see me doing this in a bit more detail, go back to some of the earlier videos that I've done. This is a horizontal stab in the elevator. I've hinged it using some CA hinges. They're not glued in. I'm going to pull them apart now, but I have obviously put the slots in. I find it easier doing that. I'll cover this first, and once that's been covered we'll do the elevator, and then we'll come back when it comes to doping them and adding the colour, and we'll see how it sprays up. We'll do this as a time lapse, and then you can just go to the end if you want to see it. But it's quite a straightforward. Actually, I quite enjoy using Doculam. It doesn't perform quite the same as commercial film does. I find that you need a higher temperature. It's much more tolerant than solar film or Solatex or Oratex is to temperature. Much higher. In fact, it takes some burning holes in it, although it is possible to do so. So I'll whack the iron up a little bit higher. I don't use a digital one. This is a one that I picked up in a swap meet. Pro Lux. It's a decent one, but it's not digital, and I use the thing past a temperature that I would normally work at. I normally go to medium heat, and I've gone just a little way past that. Let's put this on. It's always the same technique regardless of the covering, whether it's solar film, tissue. I always start on the long axes first. And Doculam, I think it shrinks by about 10%, so I'll try to get as many of the wrinkles out as possible before I apply or try to shrink anything down. I think the tighter you can get it, the better at this stage in terms of the application. So I'm using the weight of the actual piece to pull a little bit of tension on. It doesn't take long, it's a fairly rapid process. Nothing to be frightened of here. If you've done any sort of covering using a commercial shrinkable film, I think you'll actually find this quite straightforward. Doesn't stretch around curves as well, in which case you have to treat it, I think, a little bit like tissue and feather the edges. So there we go. I'll carry on with that, but perhaps do it as a time lapse. I'll cover both sides before I shrink it, and that'll prevent any warping coming in. And then we'll look to the tissue and the spraying. Both sides have now been covered with the Doculam. I'm going to apply some heat and flip from side to side when I'm doing so. There you go. A little bit of... You'll find that it shrinks, and then it shrinks a little bit more when it cools. That's my observation anyway. So that's now completed, and it's ready for covering with the tissue. We'll do that, and we'll take this and we'll get it sprayed and see what it looks like. I think we'll take this right to the end, and then obviously it will just be repeated for the other sides. So I'll get that covered in tissue. That's the next thing we'll do. I have the tissue here. It's just bog standard tissue. It's the stuff that I use to cover the ladybird. We took that out. We took the ladybird out actually do the maiden, but the diesel engine, which is a DC Spitfire, wasn't playing. In fact, it was a real pain. So I couldn't get it to run properly with Roy, and disappointingly there was no way, at least on that day, that it was going to have a maiden. In all honesty, I think Roy is quite reluctant to fly it. I think because it was the attachment, the emotional attachment to his father, he wants to, I think, keep it as a hangar queen, and I'm fine with that because it's his model and it obviously means a lot to him. So that might never see the air, but so be it. Covering. I use a Pritt stick and I lightly coat around the edge. That's all you need. I'm just going to place it on like that actually. And then I'll just pull it a little bit tauter all the way around. Just pulling it gently. I know from a little bit of experimentation this isn't the best quality of tissue, and by that I mean it doesn't handle being wet. Some tissues do, but you get what you pay for, obviously. Just need a slightly different approach to handling it. Some tissues you're able to wet them and manipulate them quite a bit in that state because they retain the strength. That's certainly not the case with this, but it'll do the job. It's just a medium to hold the paint after all in this case. So obviously you can't stretch tissue round compound curve or curves of any kind, so I'm feathering it around the curve here at the edge of the wing, or the tail surface rather. Then I'm going to lightly apply the Pritt stick. You don't have to go crazy with this stuff. get a gluey mess with it. Then it's just a case of folding over. And that's going on really rather nicely. With this particular tissue, as long as you work it dry, you'll stay out of trouble. A bit more glue needed there. So I'm going to repeat for the other side. And once it's all covered, I'm going to shrink it, water shrink it, and I'll show you that process. So I'll finish doing this, I'll cover the other side, then we'll come back to the water shrinking. For those of you who didn't see me do this with the ladybird build. One side covered, next side to do. Tissue's applied both sides now, and what I've actually done is I've sealed the edge with full strength dope. I don't think you strictly need to do that, but I like to do it simply to stop it pulling away when I shrink it. So I'm going to spray it with some water. I'm going to do this slightly off camera because I don't want everything drenched here. Then I'll show you how tight it'll go. So it's not bad. Whoops, it's not bad there, but there are some wrinkles in it, or slack areas rather than wrinkles. So I'll spray this, show you what it looks like, so you don't panic if you're doing this. Then we'll apply a little bit of heat to speed it up and dry it out, and we'll see that you end up with a nice drum tight finish. I hope you can see there, it does go quite horrid when it's wet, but I'm going to apply a little bit of heat just to speed things up a little. There we have it. Whoop. Turn the damn thing off. There we have it. It's nice and tight. There you go. Nice and tight. And it's ready for a thin down dope to actually seal the weave ready for the paint. I'll do that now. Here I'm about to apply the shrinking dope, which is thinned down. Nice large brush, and really it's about putting it on quickly and evenly, hence the large brush. And I'll show you another little trick I've developed in a second. Let's get this on. Side one. If you have it too thick, you can't apply it quickly. Nice soft brush, large enough for the area. Right, this is the next trick. Looks a bit brutal. Apply heat with a gun. And what that does is it lifts the tissue off the Doculam and stops creases developing in the surface. There we go. Hope you can see that. I'll make sure we're not going out of focus. I'll give that 2 coats and that'll seal that ready for spraying the silver. Well, there we have it. That's the final surface covered and sprayed. I've only given it a very light dusting, and it's not perfect, but it's going to do. It's war damaged. Nieuport after his next kill. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. That'll do. And more to the point, it's late. And that's what I want at the tail end. Hope that was informative to people. I'll stick it on there now. We always like to do this, don't we? There you go. It's coming along. Thanks for watching now. Take care. Thumbs up if you don't mind. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Bye for now.